Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here with Mental Edge Training Coach. If you're enjoying these episodes, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Today, I'll be talking with Bret Harrison. Bret Harrison is a former minor league player, now currently the head of PBR Nevada here in Las Vegas. PBR is Prep Baseball Report. He is running the show out here, doing an amazing job. So we're going to talk about Trackman today and kind of all the new technology that we have for hitters, for pitchers, and really able to measure what players, what pitchers, what hitters are doing. So we're going to go over that. He's going to basically teach us how this all works. So make sure, of course, you check out my free online Mental Edge course at mentaledge.training, where I train and teach athletes about the mental game. So enjoy this episode with Bret Harrison. Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here, and today I have Bret Harrison with Prep Baseball Report. Bret, how's it going, dude?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're on the kind of the final stages, hopefully, of this COVID pandemic. At the time of this recording here, we're getting toward, I guess, the closer to June. You know, things
Yep.
are starting to open. So
Yeah.
I've actually been able to see you out a little bit here. But I want to bring you on today because you're running the show at Prep Baseball Report with PBR. And so tell us how you got into PBR. What was the story behind that?
So I helped Buddy Goldsmith out. He was the original PBR Nevada director, and I helped out at a couple events. I mean, I participated in quite a few showcase events throughout my high school career, so I was very familiar with the process, how to kind of put it all together. And he ended up taking his job back with the Royals. And so I got a call from Sean Duncan, the owner of Prep Baseball Report, kind of just requesting a meeting. And we ended up talking for like 45 minutes to an hour, just about the different things that PBR offers. And it was pretty incredible stuff, and kind of the direction they're trying to go with the digital and technical type stuff to help identify and separate players. And they ended up flying me out to Chicago. I sat down, had an in-person interview, and kind of the rest is history. We've tried to take care of our local guys, our Nevada players, as much as possible, and we're starting to get the hang of it. But there's still a lot more to come. We are in the process of getting some big things in order, some big meetings coming up to hopefully get our players even more exposed in the right way.
Yeah. So what I noticed too, and what I think is really cool what PBR is doing. Now I don't know by far everybody at PBR, but I know you, I know Buddy, guys that have baseball backgrounds
Yep.
or seem to be really heavily involved, which is great. Tell us about your background, because you and we went to the same high school. Very fortunate, we were both shortstops. So
Yeah.
tell us about your career and how you got drafted, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I went to Green Valley High School. I graduated in 2011. On my birthday, actually, on June 9th, I got drafted by the Detroit Tigers just after my senior year of high school. And so I ended up signing with them, played 4 years, and ended up having shoulder surgery to end my career. But I mean, it was an unbelievable experience that I definitely have taken a lot from. I've grown a lot from, and came back, started coaching. I coached originally with CBA and John Pano and the local group here, but I ended up taking over the PBR job, and that's a job where I really have to be connected with everyone. So it would have been tough for me to coach as well as do this job to the caliber it deserves. So decided to pursue the scouting director role for PBR, and here we are today.
And you've been maybe would you say full time over 2 years now? Is it going on 3, or where are you at now?
I'm at like 8 months.
Oh, you were at 8 months. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, because
PBR has been here for a little over 2 years. People are still figuring out who we are and what we have to offer, and it's definitely growing. It's grown fairly quickly, and hopefully we can continue to uh, bring as much positive exposure to our players as possible.
Yeah, no doubt. So what when a player, because you have showcase events, right?
Right.
And then you have big type events back at headquarters in Georgia. We were able to participate
Yeah.
last summer in that in an underclass deal, which was amazing. I mean, there was hundreds of scouts there. I would say pretty heavily based East Coast scouts,
Yeah.
but great exposure, great experience. What when a player comes to a PBR event here in Vegas, maybe they haven't been to one yet. What can they expect at a event or a showcase?
No, absolutely. So a big thing that we've improved on over the past few months is our technical side.
Yeah.
Kind of the old school way of doing it was just really having a camera and a radar. Now we have a Trackman device that allows us to get every piece of data honestly you can imagine, from both a hitting and pitching standpoint. I've been going to different workouts and stuff like that with local big leaguers here in town, and have been able to track some at bats that they've had against each other. And then for the pitchers, I've worked with Eric Fetty, who just won the World Series here, went to Vegas. Paul Sewald and Taylor Cole. Taylor Cole threw a no hitter last year, a combined no hitter in the big leagues for the Angels. And those guys are using the Trackman every Tuesday and Saturday to track their bullpens. I mean, it's an incredible device that helps track the progress you're making. It helps find little things that certain pitches do that help you be successful and might get more movement that you're looking for. And it really backs up everything that we report as a player, right? So it's like we kind of have discussed where the scouting reports are starting to take a back seat to video and data. It's people can really see like or have the picture painted through the Trackman data or even the blast data, since we do have a deal with the little blast device that goes on the end of your bat, and that's your in-swing data, as well as combined with your Trackman data that will be sent to Driveline, and from there you'll get a report sent to you on different things that you do very well, things you're deficient in, and how you can improve them. So really, it's giving every tool possible to the player to help them improve and succeed at the high school and then college and professional levels.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's crazy how fast over just the last few years that technology has gotten better. It's improved. At the big league level on down, teams are using it more as part of the draft process of putting together a piece of the puzzle. Okay, this is their data. This is their statistics on whether it's spin rate,
Yep.
exit velocity, all these type of things. You mentioned the other day when I saw you mentioned Eric Fetty,
Yep.
and you watched him throw a bullpen. Tell me what you were basically telling me. He was able to manipulate the ball with his hand movement, his grip. Tell us a little bit about that.
So he was throwing kind of just his different arsenal of pitches, and then he started working on his slider. And for some reason that day he was throwing it, and on the app it'll tell you that his spin was at 9 o'clock, which is, if you think about just a clock, the spin is rotating top spin from that 9 o'clock angle. And so he really wasn't getting that bite on the pitch, and the Trackman device was really showing that it just had very little horizontal or induced vertical movement. And so he's getting a little bit frustrated. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna try to get on top of it a little bit more. And so he went from 9 o'clock to a little bit of a higher angle, getting on top of it a little bit more, and was able to get that sharp bite back within a pitch of just switching up his grip or the arm angle just that tiny bit. And I mean, he absolutely loved the machine, and the instant feedback. It refreshes every 4 minutes with the updated data on that pitch. So from pitch to pitch, he was able to make a small adjustment that he realized now, if my slider in a game is just not working on a day, it's not working. If I get on top of it a little bit more, it'll have a little bit of that bite back, but now it'll also have a little bit of depth, that up and down movement that could also end up being a swing and miss or a swing and miss pitch for me. So it was
Yeah.
it was cool hearing these guys kind of talk to each other, kind of the extremely fine detail that they are looking for with the Trackman device. Since each big league team does have one and uses it, they're all fairly familiar with the data that it gives off. And so myself, still learning about the device and listening to these guys from a pitching standpoint, it's incredible getting to hear the different things they're trying to achieve. Like Paul Sewald's trying to work on induced vertical movement, and he wants it to be above a certain amount of inches. So he's manipulating the ball pressure and kind of the rotation to try to get more vertical movement on each of his pitches instead of that horizontal movement. And with this device, it gives you that instant feedback of you succeeding in trying to do what you're manipulating that ball trying to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because I mean, when you look at it before this technology was available, and you and I were position players, right? So
Yeah.
it's a completely different thing. But as a pitcher, I can imagine you're throwing your bullpen, you're working on your slider, and the first three it's not what you wanted, right?
Yeah.
So I would have to imagine as a pitcher, you go, okay, that did not feel right. I released it too soon. I let go too late. My hand was too far on the side of the ball. So that was really, it was a feel, right, that you had to make that adjustment there. So this machine is reinforcing what they're feeling. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's allowing different metrics to help you see if you're deficient in an area compared to the major league average. And for those guys, it's a lot easier because they're all major leaguers. So they get to see, like, my extension or my release height is too far, it's too short, or too high or too low. I need to get it in this range because that's kind of my sweet spot, that I get the most movement, that I'm the most consistent. And this, every pitch, it gives you that feedback, and it's pretty incredible. Just the minor adjustments that these guys make, it changes everything. So
Yeah. Have you spoken to maybe, the older player, the older generation, maybe coach?
mhm.
Are you finding they're opening up to this more, or some of them still pretty resistant to it?
I think everyone's is opening up to it. The more information you have just in the palm of your hand, I think the better, because it just backs up and verifies all the decisions you're making, right? And this is kind of what I tell guys when a coach decides that he wants to offer you a scholarship or wants to offer you a spot on his team, he's putting his livelihood in your hands, right? Because his success depends on you being successful, and having this kind of data in your hand. If you see that someone is deficient, or like if a guy's spin rate isn't what you want for a certain pitch, or anything, just a separator, I mean, he can use that to separate and differentiate and make a better decision on which guy he might want to offer when you're comparing two guys that might be similar.
Mhm.
It's kind of what we were talking about the other day. It's just these extremely small details that differentiate one guy from the other, and it just makes you feel that much more confident in your decision to pursue one player.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, so we talked about the pitching side here. How does this work for the hitters?
For the hitters, the blast device, which is is this little guy that attaches to the knob of your bat, that gives you all of your in-swing data, your rotational acceleration, your bat path, your hand speed. that device is pretty incredible, giving you all this information that will help uh, see where you stack up against your peers. And then the Trackman device gives you the post-contact data, your launch angle, the spin coming off the bat, or the spin rate coming off the bat, the exit velocity, all of that. So those two combined give you every bit of data you can imagine from a single swing.
So much data.
It is. It is crazy, and it's honestly it's incredible that this stuff is all available, and where you'll get it at every Prep Baseball Report event, and it's only going to make this generation that has already surpassed and continues to get better and better. It's going to make them even better, because now they're going to know factual data instead of someone saying, "Hey, you're pulling off the ball a little bit." Now you pull up the tablet or your phone, whatever, and you say, "Here you go. This is you pulling off the ball. You're opening up too much, and this is the data that backs it up." So it's verifying and giving credibility to a lot more people.
Okay. So a thought that I had with the blast motion, it's measuring, Trackman can measure, everyone's talking about launch angle, right?
Yeah.
And that measurement. And a kid, let's picture a young freshman, maybe a sophomore that's 15, maybe just turned 16. They're still growing, they're still developing. Let's say the kid is 5'10" and he weighs up, a smaller kid, like 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Puts on this blast motion thing, and he knows, or he's heard, that maybe the ideal launch angle could be anywhere between, let's just say 15 to 25 degrees.
Yeah.
Let's say that, somewhere around there, right? And that number is indicated, like, if you want to hit a home run, that it's got to fall somewhere in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So a kid puts this device on, takes batting practice, and is probably more in the 10-degree range, or he sees 10 degrees, right? And he's like, wow, you gotta launch, you gotta get that angle more. Starts to manipulate, right? And maybe starts swinging up. Now it's like 30 degrees, so he's like doubled his angle.
Yeah.
So now that angle from the bat, that might be, he's getting closer to that home run angle, right? However, when he's hitting the ball, his best bullet is barely even getting to where, say, the left fielder would be playing a fly ball. So how does a young player like that, you know what I'm saying, utilize, how do I take this information? How do I use it?
Well, I think the biggest thing for players is understanding what kind of player you are. If you are a guy that you were just explaining, a player of like smaller stature, not going to be a power guy. If you work on hitting that line drive, staying in that line drive launch angle range, then you start getting bigger and stronger. The ball's going to start going farther, right? And then you might be able to get a little bit more of a increased launch angle down the road. But as a younger athlete, you need to learn line drives and square balls up before you do anything. That's the hardest thing I feel like to do, is to square a ball up. And if you practice squaring it up, then a lot of things are going to open up for you as a player, right? And an example I use is Nicky Garitano. Just seeing him, he was always undersized. Even when he was little, he's just undersized, and there was a lot of his swing was built to try to make up for that power. And kind of when I was talking to him, I'm like, listen, you have to understand, you need to have a swing that will produce as you get bigger and stronger. You're going to develop, you're going to get taller, you're going to get stronger, all that. But you don't want to have to redesign your swing because you're over swinging right now. There's too much movement, there's too much forward movement, too much hand movement. You need to calm everything down so you have the same simple swing that when you get bigger and stronger, that swing is going to come into play, and you're going to be able to barrel balls up just because you're more mature. The ball's going to start taking a little bit more flight, and after that, he started seeing those results that it's not about launch. For me, it's not about launch angle, and it's not about the how hard you can swing. It's about the guy who makes it look the easiest and the guy who can barrel it up the most. So if there's a ton of effort, then it shows that I feel like you're not totally I don't know, like confident, or you're not at a point where you're totally comfortable with your size and you understand your game, right? Once you understand your game as a prospect, I think that's when players start taking off. So
Yeah, no
kind of
doubt.
got a little bit off track right there,
No,
but
that's
I
good.
think I think the launch angle is a tool that is very helpful, but I also think that it could be a little misguiding to some players who are undersized, are not going to be home run guys, but say I need to get that 30-degree launch angle to get the ball out.
Right.
It's not in your arsenal, right? You're a line drive guy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
understanding your game and building a swing that's not going to only make you successful in high school, but in college and pro ball, to where, I don't know, just a quick story. For me, I was a tall hitter in high school, had a leg kick, all that, a lot of extra moving parts. Pro ball, started swinging, and they made me go hit with the big league hitting guy, and I was spread out to be athletic. My hands were slow moving back, and everything was in this 1, 2, 3 slow sequence that I could control. And I knew if one of those pieces was off, if it was like a 1, 2, 3, like my hands and my feet are moving at the same time, or my stride was at the same time, I was off.
Okay.
It's all about simplifying for me, and doing something that's going to work, not today, not tomorrow, but in 5 years and 10 years if you're in pro ball.
That's a great point, because when you are a young kid, you don't know who you are yet, right?
Correct.
What
Yeah.
you want to be is, I want to be a home run hitter. I want to drive the ball out of the yard, but you're not close to being there yet. Now, and I love the word yet. I use that a lot in my trainings, that like you are not there yet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're not going to get there. It might take another 2, 3, 4 years, like junior college,
Yeah.
or college, where you're really eventually driving the ball out of the park, but you develop this swing. And it's funny you mentioned Nicky Garitano, and that's who you kind of envision, a smaller player, does
Yeah.
everything mechanically well, and dad's a coach, he's around baseball people, and as long as the quicker that clicks, and okay, that makes perfect sense. Like, Chad's out scouting, he doesn't care if I hit a home run or not. I would rather see him do what he is, and that is line drives, gap to gap. You do that, you're golden.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I think that's why I wanted to point that out, because as a young hitter, you can really get lost in the importance of trying to hit home runs, because you're basically using this device in batting practice.
Yeah.
Off, maybe pitches might be still coming downhill a little bit. You're trying to maybe get on plane with the pitch. But when I listened to Barry Bonds a few weeks ago talk with A-Rod about bat path, and I talked a lot about bat path, and it was something I struggled with different philosophies. But Barry Bonds says, to me, Barry Bonds could possibly be the best hitter I have ever seen in my life, regardless of all the other issues he went through as a player and what he took. But what he did, and his approach, what he said, that he calls it like the X, like his front shoulders connected to his back leg. And he's essentially saying his dad, who was Bobby Bonds, taught him to swing down through the ball. Anybody can swing up to the ball, right? You and I could go to the cage right now, swing up through the ball. That's easy to do. So I think from a mindset standpoint, he's basically saying, I want you to work down to every single pitch, because that's harder to get to, right? And then when you get that 95 plus in the game, that it's going to translate, and it's going to all even out and work out with the way the pitch is coming at you. So I just find it interesting.
No, I totally agree. I think having that efficient hand path, right, from more of an A to B type swing than that big loop and having a giant hole in your swing right now, because watching these guys throw bullpens, just like you were saying, getting to that low pitch is so difficult for these guys. I mean, it's the farthest pitch away from your eyes. But now you have these pitchers who the velo is going up. Now you have guys working the top of the zone because guys are trying to lift, right? And then that's the hole in their swing, is that top of the strike zone pitch.
Yeah.
But they're trying to get underneath that lower, that middle level pitch. And now that high pitch is the one that they can't get to. So it's funny seeing these guys work out and try to pick those top corners on certain pitches that they're trying to get guys to swing and miss at. So having that extremely efficient hand path, and I saw a video of him working with Christian Yelich, who's a guy that I played with in high school. He was on my club team in high school, and they're like trying to hit baseballs down at home plate.
Which logically you'd be like, what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
But so explain the video and what's the point of that?
So from what I got from the video, it was more about just being extremely short and compact and getting that bat path to go down into the ball rather than that lift, exactly kind of how you were explaining. And that is allowing guys to stay through these balls longer and not come up and pull off. It's down and through it, and really getting more of that carry, getting some more backspin on these balls that's allowing it to go farther, right? Because a guy of maybe Christian Yelich's stature, he's 6'3", but he's not a big, strong guy by any means. From
like 190, 195. Yeah.
And he's hitting balls 400 plus. You know, so I mean, it is definitely a comfort thing. I'm a big believer in, if you're comfortable as a hitter, you're always going to be in a better position than having a manufactured swing, or I guess an Instagram type swing, but one that looks good, but it's not natural for you. But if you really work on being efficient and being as short to that ball as possible, that gives you that much more time to recognize the pitches and to lay off and to really find that barrel a little bit more consistently as well.
Did you have any type of, I guess, mental mindset cues? You mentioned like your 1, 2, 3 that you learned from the big league hitting coach. What did you think about with your hands? Any thoughts on that?
My hands were a lot of my rhythm. I tried to have some sort of rhythmic movement in my hands as a hitter, and that was kind of my key. And I took a lot of pride in getting my timing in the on deck circle, getting my timing off the pitcher's fastball in the on deck circle. So rarely I would miss that first pitch fastball, right? Because if a guy tries to get ahead, tries to blow one by you, especially in high school and some college, if you're a power arm, your fastball is your best pitch at that point. So if he's trying to get ahead, he's going to try to blow something by you. If you're doing your job on the on-deck circle and you're getting that timing ready to go, you should be able to piece that ball up, no problem. I mean, obviously, it's a game of failure, but you did everything you could to be ready for that guy. And so being prepared in the on-deck circle allows you to have that confidence in the box, and everything is timing. So if your hands are your timing, or if your weight shifting or you're sinking into your back leg is a little bit more your timing, there's something that needs to be going so you can you sync up your timing with the pitcher's motion, is what I'm trying to say.
No doubt. Yeah. And you had a beautiful swing. When I saw you, as we're probably more than a decade apart in age, I think, somewhere around there. But remember watching you as a youngster, and you did things right, but yeah, it's interesting talking with different hitters, how there's maybe a trigger that works for them. that got them. Some people, all I thought about was hands. Some people thought about the rhythm of their body. But I think what it comes down to too is everybody just tried to keep it as simple as they possibly could.
Absolutely. And that's where the 1-2-3 kind of mentality came in, and it really helped me kind of learn the professional game, especially coming from high school. When you're 18 years old and you're playing with 22, 23, 24-year-olds, you got some catching up to do. And a guy that's throwing 94, 95, I mean, you're seeing, as a high school kid, you're seeing every SEC guy's Friday night guy for the most part every game, or a Pac-12 guy, or guys you see in the College World Series. The next week you're facing them, and you have to be ready to go. And that's not to mention the Latin guys who usually throw extremely hard.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to go. And the more efficient you are as a hitter, it's just going to allow you to be that much more successful and repetitive, because you got to understand, you want to have the same swing in spring training as you do game 140 or 162 or into the playoffs. So you need to simplify and minimize your swing and find something that absolutely works for you, that's going to allow you to have that success and that rhythm and that consistency throughout the whole year. Because can you imagine starting with a swing in spring training, and then 4 months down the road, your back is toast, your legs are toast, your arm, your shoulder, everything is gone, and you have to relearn a different swing.
Right.
It would be impossible. So having that consistent low effort swing is really what stands out to me for a lot of players.
No doubt. Yeah. I'm a big believer in, I mean, it's maybe cliche, but the more athletic you are, typically when you're watching that player, things just look a lot easier. Like, he does that so easy. Like, it looks like he's not even trying. It's like, he's probably trying, but his movements are very simple. He's not trying to overdo it. And it's just, it works.
And one of the guys that I've done some Trackman stuff with that I saw here in just the kind of the recent years is Bryson Stott.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's about as low effort of a swing as possible, but it's so consistent and fluid that he's just able to kind of throw his hands, it almost seems like, at any pitch. And we had him on the Trackman hitting like 105 exit velo with wood, with cage balls.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, like that's extremely impressive that he's able to do that over and over and over again. But his swing is just, it's so smooth and simplified that he's mastered his own swing.
Right.
From high school to where he's at now, there's such a small difference in what his swing looks like. It just has such effortless flow, and I mean, it's definitely an art.
And Bryson's a great example of, for the high school players that are listening here, let me take you back a few years, because I scouted Bryson in high school. He was a young shortstop when we had like Nick Kingman or Nolan Kingham. Was a prospect here out at Desert Oasis High School, and Bryson was a good player there. He was really just undersized. He just didn't have his strength yet. So I want you players that are in high school now to know that Bryson went from, probably a couple scouts knowing about him. We call these guys pocket follows, right? We're like, this guy's got some actions. He does some things really well that I like what I'm seeing, but it's just not ready yet, right? So but he's that pocket follower. You're like, I'm going to keep a close eye on this kid. And what do you know, 3 years later, he's a first-round pick, right? Yeah. But he learned, had some pretty decent coaches out there, and learned and had some type of simple and easy approach, and was around baseball people that I think taught him well that, hey, you just keep working on this. 3 years later, you're going to get your strength. He turned into 6'3", probably 200 pounds, and became a first-round pick. So I bet when he graduated high school, probably was around maybe 6'1", 6'2", maybe 170. So he put on a good 25 pounds. and looks like a big leaguer coming out of the junior year in college, and was a USA, all-American shortstop. So my point in that story is for the high school kids, like, just because I, as a scout, other scouts aren't talking to you, doesn't mean we're not watching. If we're not paying a lot of attention to you now in high school, doesn't mean we don't like you. It just means we're watching. Right? Most kids are, as you would attest to this, most kids are not ready for pro ball out of high school.
Correct.
Right? It's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different level.
Yes.
It's a grind, and it's tough, and it's really hard. So, and I bet even kids that are going into college, right, would say going into college at the D1 level from high school is very hard, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the first stepping stone, right, to get there. But how did you feel when you came out of high school? Because for me, I think you've always been a mature kid coming out of. Did you feel like you were any regrets that you probably would have went to college, or what do you feel about now on that?
No regrets, because I ended up going back to school and I got my degree after I finished playing. But I was super happy. I mean, I had a great talk with my brother the night before I signed, kind of just talking about the different things that he experienced in college and how our dreams growing up was to play professional baseball. Like it was everything to us. So I had the opportunity in front of me and I took it. I met friends that I'm still friends with today. It was such a great experience, and it's definitely a learning curve for the high school player. You have to learn on the move because they're not slowing down for you whatsoever. Right. So you have to figure out the professional game. You got to know what works for you. And that was the hardest part for me is going from high school where it is very structured to come back to spring training. You better be ready, like game ready today, so you have to figure out what works for you. And during this downtime with everything going on, this is very close to a professional off season for a lot of these players. Players have all the time in the day now to get their swings off of a tee, find somewhere to hit on a field, possibly play catch, be ready to go once everything opens up, because especially for that 21 class, their prime year in high school has gotten taken away. And this summer is hopefully going to do a small part in making up for it if we're able to get back on the field. But you have to be ready to go. Mm-hmm. There's no other option for you as a player but to be ready to go, because it is extremely important that you are working hard at this point, because now this is a good time for colleges or pro scouts to see, okay, what does this guy do when he's not being told what to do? Yeah. Right. If he's a guy that comes out of the gate and he's swinging it and his arm looks good, he looks fresh, he's ready to go. Or if he's a guy that's like, man, that kid has been sitting on the couch this whole time, and
he's 30 pounds heavier.
Right? Yeah, it's exactly. It's going to separate a ton of players this downtime, because I get videos sent to me. There's definitely kids working out and improving, but I can guarantee you there's a handful of kids that are taking this extremely lightly and kind of taking it as a vacation, when this isn't the time to do that. Mm-hmm. This is the time you have to be working to get better. So, I don't know, we have our couple of events coming this summer, and they might be fresh off of when things open up.
Yeah, tell us about your events, like the dates, what you have planned for the summer.
So we do have a Rising Stars event, which is mainly an educational event, and it's going to be for the incoming freshmen as well as the incoming 8th graders, the 24 and 25 class. The top players from that event will be selected to represent Team Nevada at the Junior Future Games, which will be the same time as the actual Future Games in Cartersville, Georgia, at the Lake Point facility. that is an event that it's crazy, but the recruiting age is getting so much younger, and it's one of those events that has to happen because there's schools that are already tracking guys that are incoming freshmen or in it or going into eighth grade. You know, it's all part of the job. So if like we're really going to work on helping these players understand the recruiting process, understand the showcase environment, what we're looking for, how to look good as a baseball player, not only at an event but at a tournament you go to, how to be a professional and be someone that people will gravitate towards.
Mhm.
So mostly an educational event. Obviously, we're going to get all the data. We're going to have everything on those guys. It's going to be extremely professionally ran with all the safety protocols that the state's going to come out with, as well as additional safety protocols that Prep Baseball Report will take to make sure everyone's confident in the process and feels okay with coming out and being around people. Our next event is the Underclass Top Prospect Games, which is June 30th and July 1st at UNLV. It's the top prospects in the state. The first night is going to be all testing. It's going to be getting your exit velocity, getting all your data with the Trackman, the blast, your infield velocity, outfield velocities, everything that will go on your profile. The next day will be the simulated game. Pitchers versus hitters, the best in the state stacking up against each other and seeing how each player does. All of it will be live tweeted. It'll be under the lights at UNLV, so we'll be out of the heat, thankfully. And the upper class top prospect games will be similar, except it's just for that 2021 class to really help sort out the top players in the state. It's an event that some guys might start getting some draft looks because we do have there's some talent in that 21 class that has attracted some national attention, and us getting the Trackman data, the blast data will all help solidify their spot in the national rankings and kind of that overall picture when it comes that time in 2021 June.
Yeah.
So
That'll be here before we know it.
I know it's crazy how fast it's all going, but those are a couple of events that are really going to help us not only update players' information, but help us identify and get a better feel for the players, because players are always improving. Some are plateauing, and it's all part of the kind of the process. And we have to be out there to identify, and there's no better spot than to have them all together in a controlled environment, a safe environment with everything going on, and getting them that proper exposure for the guys who are uncommitted. And well, one thing I forgot to mention was for that underclass games, we still have spots that are open for the future games. The future games is the event that Callum went to last year. It has 300 plus college coaches at the event. It is like mayhem for these players. I mean, every one of these schools. I mean, last year we had Santino Panaro was there, committed to UNLV. Tanner McDougal was there, committed to Oregon. I mean, these players, there's no better event in the country for an uncommitted player than the future games. And so we're looking to take our top of the top players to go represent Team Nevada and hopefully come out winning every game, because this is selfishly the only time I really get to be competitive.
Right.
So I'm trying to put together the absolute best team I can. And so far we have a pretty well-rounded group of players that I'm excited to show off once we get there. And these events are going to be a great opportunity for these players to get in front of the in-state staff, as well as some surrounding schools that are planning on coming to the event. And even the ones who can't, there's going to be so much digital footage and data that is available for these players or available to the coaches following these events, that it's not a huge detriment that they can't come to the event. Yeah. Right. We've and as a company have invested a ton of resources in creating events and opportunities that don't need colleges to be there. Obviously, people want to see players and see how they walk up to the field, how they go about being with their peers and kind of handle the day. But there's going to be a ton of footage that allows schools to really be able to get a feel for each of the players without having to actually attend the event.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And these type of events, for the listeners, these are invitation events, correct?
Correct. Correct. Except for the Rising Stars. The Rising Stars event is for everyone. It's an event that we really want to use to help identify the incoming prep athletes, right? So when we do come out with the rankings, we have an idea of who is coming, who's going to be the top guys, and the only way we can really see players or rank players or do anything is sometimes at these events, and we try to get out as much as possible. But having players at these events is our best way to identify and assess players.
Yeah, that's great, man. So what do you see yourself? There's really kind of only a certain amount of events you can do
Yep.
as the PBR Nevada director. How many events is that total for you a year typically?
Well, we're fairly proactive at the beginning of the year, and we're hosting scout days, which allowed us to go to the certain high schools and put on a unique event for each of the high schools, right? I think we ended up having 13 different scout days, as well as a Northern Nevada scout day, which there's multiple schools up there that have already reached out about planning events for next year at their local high schools. And we ended up getting almost 300 athletes into our system with data and video and all of that just from these scout days. So it was very successful kind of preseason type thing, and it's a time when players are in very good shape, usually healthy from intramurals or practice, and it ended up being a great opportunity for me to really be able to get out and see as many players as I could. And so those kind of micro events are, I mean, we could run 50 of them if the schools would want to do it. But as far as our bigger premier events, we have the top prospect games for the upper class and underclass. We're always going to have a Rising Stars event, which usually will take place during the spring, during the high school season, since that is a little bit of a downtime for us, just event-wise, and we're going to be able to do that. But some uncommitted events later in the year to help especially the 21 group, who was unfortunately had their prime season cut short. That's usually some of the stuff we're going to allow, but we have the freedom to really be creative and come up with some events or different update type showcases that will allow players to continuously show off their progression, right? And it's I think for you as well as myself, seeing players progress is an extremely positive sign of them as a prospect.
Absolutely.
Like we've had quite a few guys who have come to events as sophomores, and now they're going into their senior year, and the exit velocity is jumping up. They're maturing. The 60 is down. Their outfield velocity is up. On the mound, they're getting stronger. Fastball velocity is up. So it's seeing that progression. It really helps start being able to paint the picture of what this guy might end up being. So
yeah. Absolutely, because I tell kids I work with all the time, like when you come into high school your freshman year, right? You're about you're 14, around 15 years old. You were the crap in middle school, right? Now you're the low man on the totem pole again as a freshman, but you're coming in and you're still a baby, right? You don't realize it yet, but you're still a baby. You're not even close to shaving yet. The maturity level's not there. And I remember telling my son, driving him to school as a freshman, I go, dude, you're going to be shocked with your progression, your maturity. Just look at it year to year. Like after each school year is over, look at like man, I remember when I was a freshman, I was scared to death,
Mm-hmm.
right? Playing it because he played varsity as a freshman, and like that's real, right? And
Yeah.
then you get confident, right? And then you go into that sophomore year, you're like, all right, I can play here, I can do this.
Yeah.
But then you jump into your senior year as, say, a 17, 18-year-old, and now you're kind of becoming a man, right? You're
Totally different person.
it's just so my point of that is, like, when you're young and you say go to a PBR event and you get a certain number, like say on your exit velocity or your velocity with your fastball, and you don't like that number,
Yeah.
that's use that number as a measurement to say, okay, this is where I am. Okay, and start setting some goals on where do you want to be, or this is 3 years from now as a senior, and start doing the little things daily to get you to those numbers on where you want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where kind of our micro events, right? If we do have for example, like a PBR pitcher update, right? If you didn't like your velocity at the scout day, if you didn't like your velocity at the top prospect games, later in the year, we're going to have events that could be position specific or just a hitting event, really just to update one of your numbers that you might have thought, man, I really thought I could have done better there. Now I have an opportunity to update that number. I'm happy with my other numbers. I think they can always get better, but this is a number that I was a little bit behind in, and I think I'll be able to really pump that number up at this other event. So
Yeah. So
there.
on that note, on all these measurements, as we kind of will wrap this up here, you've spent a lot of time. I really appreciate you doing that. But college coaches are looking at these numbers too. Do they participate? Do they buy memberships to PBR to get the access to this info?
Yep. So we actually have over 800 college coaches and professional scouts who subscribe to our website. So regardless if they are at an event, there's coaches who can go into your profile, click follow this player. They'll get an update, or they can see all the updates for when a player comes to an event. They can click on his contact information. It'll have everything. It'll have your information, everything you fill out on your profile page. They'll have access to all that and can use that to contact you. So we do have a fairly massive following in the baseball community, and I mean it continues to grow, especially as we add on the technical side of everything. It's just going to help people verify and separate players and decide, I really like this guy. This guy is a player who has kind of like a Bryson Stott. He's got actions. He's got the right actions. I'm going to follow him through his high school career and see how much he's progressing physically, right? And seeing how that is going to possibly trajectory into being a very good player for our program.
Right.
So
that's awesome. So I know most of the high school players in Nevada know where to follow you, but where can players follow you and people around the country follow you at?
You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Our tag is PBR_Nevada. That'll get you to both our Instagram and Twitter. We're not really on Facebook, I guess, but that will allow players to see. I mean, we're doing spotlights on players. We're trying to get as much exposure to our guys as possible, and either one of those social media platforms. I mean, we're on there daily, trying to either give you an opportunity to use mental edge like your stuff and kind of master that side of the game, or like the Tim Soder, trying to get physically stronger or working on arm exercises and really trying to give every bit of information we can and keep players up to date on what's happening in the state, because we do have some new rules and like an entire new 5A class on the horizon that is projecting to happen this next year. So if you give us a follow, you'll be definitely in tune with with all the happenings of Nevada baseball.
That's awesome, man. Well, Brett, you've been doing an awesome job. I see you everywhere when I'm scouting the games. I seem to always see you there. So you're kicking butt on the trail, and you're helping out a ton of kids, getting them exposure, because they're all working hard, and you're a big part of that here in Vegas. So I appreciate, and I know all the kids, the parents, the families, everybody appreciates that. So keep up the hard work, dude. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks for the call. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys.